Are you guys ready to feel old? It's been 20 years since the first Spider-Man movie came out. 20 years! It's insane how fast time swings by, isn't it? Well, I think it's pretty clear by this point. I love Spider-Man. Favorite superhero, one of my favorite characters, made plenty videos talking about him or characters related to him already. I drew him, dressed up as him, quoted him, felt like him. I'd imagine the picture is properly set. But something I may have not mentioned in past videos is that Spider-Man is kind of the reason I'm here. 20 years ago, when I saw the first movie at the age of 9, I was blown away by it. I was familiar with Spider-Man being in cartoons and in comics, but seeing a real Spider-Man on the big screen, this mind right here was indeed blown. And now we have 2 decades of Spider-Man movies to treasure, and we are counting down my top 20 favorite moments from these movies. However, before we start climbing that wall, let's get some ground rules set up. 1. I'm only counting movies which have Spider-Man's name in the title. That means the Sam Raimi trilogy, the Mark Webb duology, John Watts' Home trilogy, and Into the Spider-Verse. I'm not counting Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. All 3 are great movies, don't get me wrong, but they are not Spider-Man movies. They are movies with Spider-Man in them. That also discounts the Venom movies since they are pretty standalone from Spider-Man himself, and I'm discounting Morbius for the same reason, and also because it sucks. 2. I'm only picking moments in which Peter is in the costume. He can be unmasked and the suit can have some bruises on it, but he must have the costume on in a chosen moment. 3. No moments with the 3 Peters interacting from No Way Home. All of these moments are fantastic, of course, but I feel like they'll take over the list if I include them. And let's be honest, the scene with the 3 of them swinging and landing on the Statue of Liberty would easily take the number 1 spot, so let the other moments shine. 4. Not much of a rule, but I'm going to try and pick at least 1 moment from each movie. I know not all of them are fan favorites, but it's a celebration of these movies and I'm going to celebrate them, not bring any of them down. 5. In the case of Into the Spider-Verse, only Miles Morales moments are allowed. Again, too many great moments which would dominate the list otherwise. And lastly, number 6, only theatrically released movies. Okay, I think the stage is properly set. These are my top 20 favorite Spider-Man cinematic moments. Let's do this! Number 20. Washington Monument Climb, Spider-Man Homecoming. Starting off this list with a simple scene, but one which puts one of Spider-Man's most basic powers to a true test. Everyone knows that Spider-Man can stick and climb to walls, it's arguably his main thing besides the webs. And yet despite this, it's one of those powers which people kind of take for granted, and it doesn't have many moments in which it can shine, like the spider sense or his raw strength. This sequence gives Peter a chance to prove why his sticking powers, as he calls them, are not to be underestimated. When his friends are stuck in a broken elevator, Spider-Man has to climb to the top of the Washington Monument, which is 555 feet by the way, before their elevator crashes. The intensity of the situation and seeing Spidey try to keep up a quick climbing pace makes this a fun and thrilling demonstration of how useful and important that power is to the hero. A hero who can climb this high under such intensity and save his friends is definitely a person who is worth telling his story. Number 19. Forgiving Sandman, Spider-Man 3. If the previous pick helped demonstrate one of Spidey's more underappreciated abilities, then this one helps demonstrating his, I guess, most take for granted quality. It's mostly expected of a hero to be the first to forgive a person who did them wrong, so it's never too outlandish whenever Spider-Man does that. However, this scene shows it off in a gut-wrenching context. Having realized that the man who actually killed his uncle didn't mean to do it, Peter is put in a situation he's been in from the other side. His best friend saw him responsible for his father's death, not knowing it was a mistake, and had to learn to forgive him. Now, Peter finds out the exact same thing regarding the death of his uncle. Having heard the full story and knowing the guilt Flint is carrying with him, Peter finds it in himself to forgive the man who he never thought he could forgive. Beautiful scene, which is sadly lower on the list because of some plot issues I have with it, but nonetheless a powerful moment. Carnival Fight, Spider-Man. Yep, the first entry from the very first movie featuring Spidey's first fight against one of his supervillains. Despite the fight not being as intense as other fights in these movies, and the effects are not holding up super well, let's be honest, it's still a fun action sequence which shows in retrospect how much better this Spider-Man got at fighting as the movies went on. Also, Spider-Man's entrance always gets me giddy. Number 17. Times Square Spider-Sense, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yes, there's an Amazing Spider-Man 2 moment on this list. I did say at least one per movie. But despite my rules, I do really like this moment. Yeah, Electro's turn is super random and out of nowhere, but you know what? There are things to appreciate here. For one, I appreciate Spider-Man trying to talk Electro out of harming people and handling the situation peacefully. Even after the villain turns, he's still trying to keep him calm and not resort to violence. Also, come on, that Spider-Sense sequence is pretty freaking sick. Spider-Man has amazing powers, but it's even more amazing to see him use them smartly and quickly assess any kind of situation. Number 16. Car Thief, The Amazing Spider-Man. One of the things I will always give to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is that he got the character's quips the best. Yeah, Tobey Maguire had occasional jokes and Tom Holland had his own take on this part of Spidey's personality, but I still think Andrew Garfield nailed it the most, and this scene proves it. After finalizing his new suit, Peter is confronting the next man who might have killed his uncle. Instead of striking fear in the criminal, however, the hero decides to mess around with him by joking about his appearance and showing off with his web shooters. This scene also demonstrates the less heroic and less experienced side of Spider-Man, which some people may not like, but it works perfectly with his early days in the costume, believing he's the shit and not yet understanding that the police doesn't appreciate jokes. Still a fun scene with an hilarious and creepy Spider-Man. Why wouldn't this scene be on this list? You tell me. Number 15. Killing Venom, Spider-Man 3. Topher Grace's Venom was awful, so only makes sense seeing him die would make me happy. But jokes aside and personal hatred aside, this scene is pretty good. We start with a failed attempt by Peter to get through to Eddie, continuing to Harry sacrificing himself in order to save Peter's life, seeing the connection Peter makes to how he could rid Eddie of the symbiote, discovering just how much this little black goo can grow, and looking really cool and creepy actually. And of course finishing up with Topher Grace getting blown up. Okay, despite that, there's a lot in this scene which works really well, and even if I don't like this incarnation of Venom, I can at least find comfort in the other good parts in it. The cool visual of the symbiote and this asshole getting blown up. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Number 14. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming. What is there to say about this scene beyond the name of it? It's Spider-Man being Spider-Man, and being quite the wholesome hero at that. One would think being a superhero of Spider-Man's caliber would mean fighting big and threatening bad guys all the time. In reality though, he's just trying to make sure everyone's okay and looking for trouble rather than being ready for it. He stops bike robberies, helps a woman with directions, and even does some fan service. Simple scene, no huge consequences, but a fun and accurate way to represent this young and enthusiastic hero. Also, there's a moment on this list which contains a spoken Stan Lee cameo, so there's that. Number 13. Mysterio's Illusion, Spider-Man Far From Home. I had some expectations for Mysterio being the villain of this movie, and they were all nailed with this one trippy sequence. Mysterio in the comics was a visual effects artist and an actor who uses illusions to fight our favorite Spider. In this movie, the illusions may not be fully his, considering he's using Stark Tech drones, but he's using them to the same effect to mess with Spidey. The visuals and set design are super cool and even creepy looking. The ways in which he uses the illusions to hurt Peter or trick him are really creative, and Jake Gyllenhaal's creepy delivery of his lines really seals the deal. I got everything I wanted from a movie with Mysterio in it thanks to this one sequence. And it is definitely a hard one to top whenever we'll get Mysterio in another movie. Number 12. Crane Swinging, The Amazing SpiderMan. A hero may save a city, but it is impossible not to be happy when a city can save the hero as well. After getting shot and injured by a police officer, Spider-Man has trouble reaching the Oscorp building in order to stop the Lizard's plan. Things look up for the better, however, when a person whose kid was saved by Spider-Man decides to repay the favor by organizing all the cranes he could in order to provide the friendly neighborhood with a straight swinging path to his destination. Some people may find this cheesy, but you know what? Life can be cheesy sometimes. And in this case, it feels earned, when the same people Peter swore to protect are also there to help him whenever it's needed. Plus, the swinging is so well done in this scene. You can feel each swing and leap Spidey makes thanks to the awesome camera work and actually impressive CGI. Is it cheesy? Maybe. Is it a damn good scene? You bet. Number 11. It's Miles, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Yes, it was about time Into the Spider-Verse will show up in here, and what a scene to debut with. The other Spider people made it to Kingpin's Super Collider, which is their key to going back home. However, just as they are about to use the device, Kingpin's goons arrive to make things complicated. Doc Ock thinks she's got a Spider-Man in her grasp until one more Spider-Man arrives at the scene. Miles' entrance to the fight is built up expertly. We of course know as viewers that he is gonna make it to the Collider in order to help his fellow Spiders, but his entrance is just as mysterious to us as it is to the characters. We know Miles can turn invisible, but we never saw him do it on command, so we don't necessarily connect Ock's arms malfunctioning as he's doing. Once he reveals himself though, and we get that epic flash of colors, you know exactly who is responsible. This is the moment where Miles shows the other Spiders whom had doubts about him, and the villains who didn't pay him much mind that he is a Spider-Man to be afraid of. He is brave, stealthy, has a dope suit, and is an immigrant, so he gets the job done. One of the best entrances in a superhero movie. Number 10. London Bridge Fight, Spider-Man Far From Home. Kicking off the second half of this list is the climax for Spider-Man's adventure through Europe, and it matches in scale and grandness. This fight sequence is not only fast-paced and a great fun to watch, it also demonstrates a bunch of Spidey's abilities. From the fast thinking and creative usage of his webs, not forgetting about the amazing utility of his spider sense, yes I know they call it the Peter Tinkle here, shut up, and above all, Peter's brains and improvisation skills once his webs run out. The sequence is one of the best final fights in any Spider-Man movie, and there's no doubt in my mind that you'll be back to watch it. And that is 3 Hamilton references in a Spider-Man countdown. I'm not even sure if it was planned or not, but hey, you got references. Number 9. Opening Swing, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yes, an Amazing Spider-Man 2 moment in the top 10. And I'm willing to bet even the biggest hater of this movie will agree that this one is worth it. This whole sequence is just pure fun. Spider-Man swinging, heroic deeds, and sense of humor all combined in this one thrilling opening which may hurt the movie when you find out it doesn't get any better than that, but what can you do? And in true Spider-Man fashion, the action and crime fighting is mixed with Peter's need to arrive at his own graduation ceremony, which he of course manages to do at the very last possible second. Say what you will about the movie, and I know that people will, This opening was a great way to start the journey, and I can always go back to it in order to appreciate something about this missed potential. Also, another spoken Stan Lee cameo. Number 8. Pizza Delivery, Spider-Man 2. Yep, it took 12 spots, but the GOAT Spider-Man 2 finally shows its face in this countdown. So it only made sense to make its debut in the list with its opening sequence. Totally planned this, I swear. Like the opening which scored below it, Spider-Man 2's opening demonstrates the duality of Spider-Man wonderfully, and in a quick manner which makes it obvious from the get-go what the main theme of the movie is going to be. The struggle between Peter Parker and Spider-Man is at a high when Peter tries delivering a pizza order with a strict time limit, but has to take a detour in order to save two kids from being run over by a truck, which ends up with him being late, causing him to lose his job. I was debating which of the opening to place higher, but this one edges out for showing the conflict in a quicker and more impactful way, while also setting up the tone for the rest of the movie. What else can I say? The duality of Spider-Man is always impactful and sometimes funny, and this intro knows it. Number 7. Saving the Kid, The Amazing Spider-Man. This moment is so freaking awesome for two reasons. For one, it shows Spider-Man as the friendly hero he was always known to be. He's not only saving the kid, but he's also talking to him throughout every step of the process. The way he reassures him that he's just a regular guy and lets him wear his mask in order to make the kid feel stronger as he's trying to escape the car, it's all just pure Spider-Man. No doubt about it. In addition to it, we also get a perfect moment for Peter to realize what being Spider-Man means. Until that point in the movie, Peter allows himself to think he is better than the police for catching those criminals. Now he sees he was able to give someone, a stranger, his son back. No reward was involved, nor a personal need to catch these people. Just the good deed of keeping a family together. I was always a massive defender of the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, and this scene is one of the many reasons why. The character growth is done so well and without much talking, just the actions and the subtlety of this whole situation. This is the moment where Spider-Man understands who he is, and when a hero gets it, it's very satisfying. Number 6. Come on Spider-Man, Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah, I'm all about those self-realization moments, I'm aware. And no, this scene isn't this high just because of the Amazing Spider-Man number 33 callback. It's cool to see it done in a live-action movie, don't get me wrong, but there's more to it than just that. For starters, we get a quick reminder that this Peter Parker is still a kid who is in a lot of ways out of his league. He still fights and he's still trying his best to help out, but he's never been in this kind of situation by himself, and it's gut-wrenching to see him struggle and cry for help. However, realizing what Tony told him before this makes Peter realize that he doesn't need another hero or some other technology to save him. He's the hero who will save himself. The way he switches from "Come on Peter" to "Come on Spider-Man" is the final step in him realizing that being a hero isn't about the suit, but the person underneath it. With this realization, Spider-Man saves himself from the rubble and is ready to save the day next. Iconic moment for an iconic hero. Number 5. Spider-Man vs. Green Goblin, Spider-Man No Way Home. And you thought it took me a while to get a Spider-Man 2 moment in here. Well, it took me longer for this one. Anyway, representing No Way Home is the final fight between Peter 1 and the Green Goblin. Furious at the death of his Aunt May by the Goblin, Peter is ready to make the sick villain meet the same fate. The fight itself may be simple, but it's super intense due to the simple factor of Peter wanting to go for the kill. He is not pulling back any punches, and he is letting his full strength out during this fight. Peter 1 is about to go through with the kill, but is stopped by Peter 2. With just the expressions and the baggage of these two versions, the message is conveyed that Spider-Man doesn't kill. Peter 1 realizes it, and instead he kills the Goblin, by curing Norman Osborn of his darker half. I always love to see Spider-Man lose control of his anger and not hold back, as it shows that he's not only dangerous, but also a human who can get mad sometimes, and this scene didn't disappoint in that regard. Yet, as much as I love to see the webhead lose control, I also love seeing him realizing what's right and not going through with a violent option. On a side note, I know I said no moments with the three Peters interacting, but this part is only two of the Peters, and the focus of the scene isn't their interaction, so loophole! Number 4. I'm Spider-Man, Spider-Man. I always love endings which come full circle, and this is one of them. The first Spider-Man movie starts with Peter asking us if we are sure we want to know who he is. Following that, we get to the now well-known origin story. He started as a superhero, all the ups and downs with Mary Jane, Harry, Aunt May, etc., ending it all with the death of the Green Goblin, and hearing his best friend accusing him of his father's death, and Peter having to reject Mary Jane's advances due to his double life. We end with a reminder of Uncle Ben's famous words before Peter finally answers our question from the very start. He's Spider-Man. We then cut to see the hero swinging through the streets, accompanied by the wonderful Danny Elfman team, as we close the movie with the melancholy and yet triumphant swing which establishes Spider-Man's presence as the protector of this town. Besides all of that, I also have a small personal attachment to this scene. I was 9 when this movie came out, and it blew my mind back then. And this ending is one of my favorite theater moments ever, because of what it symbolizes, and what it meant for me to see a real Spider-Man on the big screen. I know, nostalgia goggles, but when it's a movie that's so important to me, and for the path I chose in life, I had to rank it up this high. And we're still not done. Number 3. The Train Fight, Spider-Man 2. The train fight is only at number 3? How dare you, HC! Yeah, well, you know what? It's only number 3 in the top 20 list. And this is also a list I cut down massively. And it beat up 17 other moments, so it's not like I'm ignoring its awesomeness. And I shouldn't, because this fight scene kicks ass. What can I say about this sequence that hasn't already been said? Probably nothing. You know why this scene is so beloved and is so highly regarded. It's insane how fast, with so many great attacks and comebacks for both Spidey and Doc Ock. It looks amazing for the time. It's just the right pace and length for an action sequence of this caliber. Spider-Man stopping the train will forever be one of the biggest holy shit moments in movie history. Spider-Man PS4 referenced it. I don't think I can say more. This scene is peak Spider-Man. You know why it's awesome. I know why it's awesome. It may only be 3rd place, but it earned that 3rd place. There was no way I was leaving this scene out. So what 2 moments can possibly top it? Number 2. A Leap of Faith, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Just beautiful. This sequence is beautiful, and not just because of the animation. I mean, it's definitely a factor, right? Let's not kid ourselves here, but it's beautiful for another reason. This is the moment Miles was preparing for the entire movie. The moment in which he realizes what's needed out of him to become Spider-Man. The moment sure delivers. Miles had some training for his Spidey abilities throughout the movie, but this is the first time he's not trying to follow any particular Spider-Person. He's embracing his own self into it. From the suit being made with graffiti, his flips are still somewhat sloppy, relying a bit more on parkour than his webs, doing different kinds of tricks, and believe me, I want to highlight What's Up Danger, which is playing in the background, but I'm afraid of a copyright strike. It's a sequence which presents growth, realizing your own strength, and the wonderful accomplishment of conquering your fears and realizing you are just as worthy as your peers. This scene is so damn satisfying. So what can top it, I hear you ask? Well, Number 1. The Final Swing, Spider-Man No Way Home. I honestly have no idea what people are going to think about anyone putting this at number 1, and honestly, I had no idea this would be my number 1 when I started this list. The more I thought about it though, the more I started thinking that nothing could beat this. This entire ending bit of No Way Home is Spider-Man. It's not the happiest of endings, it's pretty depressing actually. Peter, for the first time in his life, is all alone. His mentor died, his mother figure was killed by a supervillain, his best friend and girlfriend can't remember him, and neither does anyone else who knew him before. He basically needs to start his life up from scratch by himself. And despite this, he's not giving up. He puts on this beautiful looking suit and goes out into the night to continue using his powers to help people, like his dead mentors would have wanted him to. With a powerful rendition of his MCU theme and a beautiful and yet somber snowy night, Peter keeps his head up and his web shooters filled as he swings into the night with the intent of continuing being our favorite friendly neighborhood. I think what makes me love this scene that much more is mainly the determination and the sheer willpower, which to me really emphasize how big of a hero Spider-Man actually is. He lost everything. He made a choice to keep away from his friends for their own safety. Anyone else would give up and would probably avoid doing any more of these heroics after all of that. But not him. He keeps going because that's the right thing to do. Because he knows that not only would his loved ones that he misses would have wanted him to keep being Spider-Man, but also because it's the right thing to do. What else can I say? It's emotional, it's motivational, it's Spider-Man. And I have absolutely no problems calling this my favorite moment in this cinematic journey. And these are my top 20 Spider-Man moments. What did you think? Agree with my picks? Disagree? I'm sure some of you would disagree. So feel free to share your ranking in the comments below. Believe me that this was a hard list to put together, and also some cuts were painful to make. But whatever your top 20 moments are, similar choices to mine or not, at least we can all agree that despite the ups and downs, Spider-Man's cinematic career gave us all fantastic moments to cherish, which we would never forget. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what's a runner-up, at the bottom of the list, or even at the top spot. What matters is the shared love we have for the webhead, and how each incarnation has something for us to enjoy and talk about. Whether you're a die-hard Sam Raimi fan, a hipster Mark Webb defender, of which I am, or a youngster identifying with John Watts' growing up story, not to mention the people who had their jaws dropped at Into the Spider-Verse's animation. Spider-Man had something for all of us. It taught us forgiveness, it taught us to move on, it taught us that we're in this world to make our own path and not follow the trends, it taught us that we could all be heroes in our own way, and without a doubt, it taught us about the great responsibility which always accompanies the greatest power.